the Daily Mail's man in the Northeast put out an exclusive. Alexander Isak tells Newcastle he wants to explore a transfer away, opening the door to Liverpool's £150 million interest. Well, yes, a lot of Liverpool fans tell us we've got 200 million to spend. We can still afford him. We haven't got to sell to buy. So is it Liverpool? Could it be beyond that? Is it a bargaining chip? Let's speak to the man behind it all. Craig Hope joins us. Hi, Craig.
Hello, Craig.
Afternoon, guys. How are you doing?
Yeah, not so bad. You're joining us from over in the Far East, so thanks for doing this. Wow. So do you think it is a situation? You say in your piece that it's possible you could just get an improved deal this year and maybe look to revisit it next summer? Or does this feel like he wants out before the start of this season?
No, I don't think it's a bargaining chip. I don't think this is a case of Alexander Isak telling the club he would like to explore a move away in a bid to get more money, because more money is already there. He doesn't have to do that. Newcastle want to keep him. Eddie Howe wants to keep him. The owners want him to stay at St James's Park. And to do that, he will be prepared, I believe, to give him improved terms, even if that meant just one more season and taking a gentleman's agreement for him to go next summer. But as it is, my information is that Alexander Isak wants to accelerate that. He's told the club he's keen to explore his options, and this is the situation we're at now. He hasn't travelled out here with the rest of the squad to Singapore. They're currently in the air. The official reason for that was given as a thigh injury. Now, both things can be true. Alexander Isak may well be nursing a thigh injury. He's certainly got a history of such issues, but it can also be true that he wants to explore that move away, and that's where we're at right now.
And you think Liverpool is the most likely destination?
Yes, I do. Now, everything I know about Alexander Isak and I've heard over the last 12 months, yes, money is an issue. You know, he's a young man. He's 25-year-old, but you call him a young man, but it's also a very short career, and you've got an earning potential in a finite amount of time at which you can maximise those earnings. So you'd be looking at that on one hand, but he's also the best striker in the world. You know, we've been bandying that term around all season now. The best striker in the world doesn't want to be competing for Premier League, so to finish in the top 4, top 5. He wants to be winning the Premier League. He wants to be winning the Champions League. And if he, with some justification, looks at the situation at Newcastle and thinks I've got a better chance of doing that elsewhere, turn 26 later in this year, then I think there's got to be a certain degree of understanding to that. Newcastle fans won't like it. This is a bad news day for them. But I also think there's a certain amount of reason needs to be applied to this.
We've heard a lot of different figures. Sorry, Charlie. We've heard a lot of different figures, Craig. What do you think Liverpool would have to pay to land Isak?
Well, I'll tell you what it would do. I think one statement of fact we can make is that they'd have to pay more than the British record fee they paid to Florian Wirtz. So that would be upwards of £120 million, I think, is an absolute minimum. 130, more likely somewhere in the region of 150. Now, is this going to happen? It doesn't have to happen. He's still got 3 years to run on his contract, and there still is that possibility that he could be given the sweetener of more money for 12 months more with that gentleman's agreement to go down the line. But even if Newcastle would like that to be the case, if you've got a player who's unhappy and there is money on the table from a club he wants to join, then we've seen, history tells us, these things have a habit of happening.
Eddie Howe said he's not been able to get the transfers over the line that he wants to, and he's missed out on a few. Do you think this is to do with that at all, that he's looking around in the dressing room thinking, not the real dressing room, but looking around going, well, who am I supposed to play with? Nothing's happening here.
I think they've been frustrated on a transfer front, in part because of the current structure of the club. Now, Paul Mitchell came in 12 months ago, and it wasn't a great start in terms of some of the relations at the club. Of course, a lot was made, be going over old ground to go back to everything he said and everything which happened 12 months ago. But he then left on the eve of this transfer window. That has left the club in an awful state. They've got no sporting director. They've got a CEO, Darren Eales, who has been outgoing for the best part of 10 months now since he announced he would be stepping down. So really, attention has to turn back to the owners, to PIF. It's their name above the door. How have they been allowed to enter into this situation without a sporting director and without replacing an outgoing CEO? I think that in the large is the reason for the difficulties with transfers this season, coupled with PSR and coupled with the fact that they are now competing with the big boys for those names, and they can't go to the level of wage evidenced by the Alexander Isak situation.
I mean, Isak would have been a man in demand at the end of the last season. Newcastle would have known that, and his agent, the player, would have known that. So why now? He could be at a new club. Newcastle could be looking to spend the money. Liverpool could have their player if it is Liverpool, and he could be part of their pre-season tour. So this feels it's not that late in the day, but it's later than you would ideally want.
Yeah, in hindsight, if a player is going to go, I suppose you want those ducks in a row. You want the sales to happen to then facilitate the buys. And Eddie Howe was on the record saying at the end of last season, they wanted, they had to be dynamic in the transfer window. He wanted those players in on day one of pre-season. As it was, day one of pre-season, he had no players in. He had less players than he had last season. Anthony Elanga arrived a week later. Now, why is it dragged on? Well, I touched on it before there. There still is the hope, given there's 3 years to run his contract, and given Liverpool will need to make sales to afford the deal, there's still a chance Alexander Isak is a Newcastle player next season. So that is why it wasn't done and dusted at the end of last season, because it's not a fait accompli. It's not definitely 100% going to happen. I think increasingly now it will, by the way. But that's the reason, to answer the question, why it's dragged on, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah.
Newcastle were connected to Harvey Elliott and I think Darwin Núñez. Do you think they'd be any interested in some sort of player swap and cash deal?
I mean, there was last summer when they were exploring the Anthony Gordon deal amid the club's PSR peril. I know Joe Gomez, Gerald Kwanzaa were names that were floated. I haven't heard that. It's not to say no, but have I heard that Darwin Núñez or Harvey Elliott are of interest in Newcastle? No, I absolutely haven't.
They rarely happen, those sorts of deals, do they? Unfortunately, it always sounds like a good idea. And Luis Diaz, I think he wants a change of lifestyle. I don't think he wants to stay in this country, so that's not going to happen. Well, have we had anything come out of Newcastle yet? I take it that you're out there, and are they out there yet? All the team, barring Isak?
No, they're not. No, I'm currently stood on floor 24 of my hotel, overlooking the city. And sadly, I've got a laptop in front of me instead of a beer. It's 8:30 at night here, but this story is somewhat taken over my evening. Newcastle arrive tomorrow morning. Eddie Howe speaks on the record on Saturday afternoon, which is 6-7 o'clock in the morning on UK time Saturday. So that'll be the first we hear from him. Whether we get any official club steer before then, I don't know.
Well, good stuff, Craig.
Well done, Craig.
Thanks very much for joining us. All the best.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
There's Craig Hope there from the Mail, who broke that story that Isak wants out.
Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.